Hey everybody. How y'all doing today? Welcome. Good to see you. Good to see you. Welcome. Hi. Welcome to... What the... Is my... Oh god, my stream deck's not working. Alright, I'll do this manually. It's also looking like I'm having encoding problems. Yeah, guys, my computer doesn't seem to want to do this today. I'm sorry about all the notifications. I tried to stop and start this multiple times before we went live. Okay, it looks like we're smooth now. I will try and keep an eye on that, guys. I don't know. Things just aren't really working. So, we'll see how this goes. But I did want to get you guys all together here today so that we could look at some gameplay, some upcoming gameplay in Star Citizen, what they might have planned. I've got a lot of stuff here. You can kind of see it up at the top of the screen here. And I forgot, my stream deck doesn't work. I'm gonna have to do everything manually. You can see that there are tabs up here for all the things. We're gonna talk about refining, cargo hauling, bounty hunting, engineering, and maybe touch on hacking. And I'll just be here to answer any questions you might have about these things, what they might be when they come into Star Citizen, when they might come. And overall, I just want us to kind of take a look and get an idea of what they actually mean to the game. And then at the end, we can make a call on which one we think is coming next. So it'll be a pretty casual day. It's Friday. It's going to be a shorter day as well. So thank you, everybody who came in to join me for this one. I have been tuned out. I didn't even watch Inside Star Citizen yesterday. I hear there was stuff in there about Arena Commander. But I don't know anything really about what they talked about, so I'll have to do a reaction video to that at some point. I don't know. I haven't posted the reaction video to last week's yet, so I don't know. I'm a bit behind. Things have been a little bit slow. We're getting back up to things, up to speed. Good to see you all. Welcome, Lord Skippy, Reese, Walgrit, Memory, Child, Cotton, Jock Cock, Walgrit, Reese. I said Reese. Leonard. Yuezun, thank you all for coming today. How are you all doing? Oh, the intro music that I have is the Deus Ex Mankind Divided soundtrack. It's a song called TF29. Afternoon. Hey Nigel. Gooser, good morning. Gronko, thank you for the sub. I really appreciate it. Thank you for the support here on Twitch. How's everybody's week going? Having a good one? Feel like getting into some theory crafting? Some speculation? Good morning, Pardola. Yeah, I messed up people's notifications on YouTube. Really sorry about that to anybody who got all of those. I was just trying to get the stream to work regularly. It was having a lot of trouble for some reason when I was trying to launch it. So, my bad. Been a long week, Walgrid, huh? Well, I hope you have a relaxing weekend at the end of it. Oh man, my back already hurts. I just sat down. Grumulus, thank you for the sub as well. I appreciate you. 2 months now. Thanks, the Prime sub. So first today, our first topic is refining. We're gonna take a look at some of the different times over the last, I want to say 3 years or so, that they have been talking about refining in different types of ways. It's going to do a lot to bridge the gap between mining and I guess everything else, really. Is like all we need is refining to make like a really good full loop of gameplay. So we have refining in the actual station, the space stations, but we don't have refining on the ships. So I thought we should jump in here and have a little talk. They have about an 8-minute segment here about refining from almost 2 years ago now, actually. So something that they got into detail in terms of design back then, but still haven't brought in for us. So let's listen to what they have to say about it.
For refining, will this game loop be broken down into different steps of refining or different purities for the end product? Basically, why don't you give us a primer, I guess, would probably be most helpful.
I can't turn up the volume any more than this, sorry.
How we're expecting refining to work.
So basically the ship refining will be drastically different to the like station refinery, where you, like on the station refinery, you bring in your materials, you wait for quite some time, and then you get the end product. For the ships, it is an active process. So the player that is basically running the refinery ship has to analyze the material that is coming in and then decide on the correct process, where the process could be probably, so imagine like there's a scenario, the player had picked up like minerals and metals, and has a refinery where there's a furnace, and the furnace will destroy the minerals, so that results in the loss of the minerals, but the metal would be refined and it would be of great quality. For the purities part, that's not something that we account for in our like first iteration. We now go for like more in a sense of if you are effective, you have less loss of material.
Yeah,
but,
we'd rather go with yield rather than purity, because it's easier for us to track rather than adding a property on each. Let's say you got gold at 57%, then you mix it with gold at 75, then you need to average. We'd rather get less gold out of the ether. You get pure gold, but it's less gold if you don't do it properly.
So the system is always working towards the highest purity. It's just a question of what the yield is.
Yes. Yeah. It's similar to how you do with.
This feels kind of like how, even right now in 3.19, the update that we got for mining is, it has shown people that the scale has been drawn back. Like, you're not expected to get however many SCUs of Quantanium and take it back to the station. It's kind of like more of a... It seems like they're trying to make us think more in compact terms. So like here, they're like, yeah, you're going to get a huge haul of minerals, but you're going to end up burning a lot of that off. And you should be good with what you have left. I'm wondering if they're going to do anything to try and change our expectations as to how much money we should be making per hour, because ultimately that's what it comes down to, how people react to this stuff. And it seems like they want it to be a little bit lower, but I don't know. Punchy, good to see you, man. Toes Gang, welcome. Hey, Alex. Lazy Bulldog, good to see ya. Welcome in. Memory, I'm glad these have been a solid daily activity for you. Hey, Simon. How are you? All right, let's get back into this.
With the station refining right now, what goes out is pure. And you can sell it as an actual gold commodity on the market rather than selling it as unrefined ore, and then you lose a lot of the profits. So what refining kind of aims to do is close a bit that gameplay loop that we started right now with mining, and we have to go to the station and kind of then you sell. We would like to be able to do all of this in the field, where I get 5 prospectors or a few molds and prospectors and 1 refinery ship, and that refinery ship becomes like the hub where everyone kind of brings. I mined all these rocks, I come to my refinery ship, I dump my sacks, so the sacks on the prospector become ejectable now. With a tractor beam, the refinery ship is able to pick them up, attach them to their own ports. They are able to scoop all that stuff into their storage, dump the empty sack, prospector picks it up, goes back to mine again. Now the refinery ship is running, constantly churning. It's constantly running whatever the guys bring, and is trying to not mix the minerals with the metals and kind of separate, and trying to think, well, on this batch, I'm going to run this process because there's higher chance of yielding, of getting this material that I'm interested in. Might not care about aluminium when I got the Grecian in there, or I might dispose of some diamonds if I have some hephaestonite or whatever high price material. So it's going to constantly, there's going to be this choice where like, oh, if I add this catalyst to this this furnace or this tank, I get to this reaction, I get to extract this and that. So it's going to be a lot of choices for the players. Obviously, as per usual, with all of our systems, things can go awfully wrong. And if you add the wrong catalyst or don't watch the pressure, don't watch timers and what's supposed to happen, don't stop the reaction when it needs to happen, things might go boom. Or not only go boom, but you might just lose the material. You might just get a shit ton of slag. Sorry for my use of funny language.
All right, so this is actually what he just described is almost already in the game. They've added the tractor beam stuff. They've added the ability for us to move mining bags. They've bolstered mining gameplay, I guess, to make sure people are doing it. And now they're talking on the monthly report about creating refining gameplay. So this is why I started with this one. I think this might be the next profession we see. But it does sound like it'll be quite a bit different from the station refining we have right now. If they make the money per hour lower, but the prices of ships and things go up, I don't agree that it's a time sink. It's going to depend, though, on what we are paying for. Freight, insurance, storage, hangars. We really have to see how much they're going to charge us for that kind of stuff. But right now, a new player can hop in the game and get the most expensive ship in game within a month without receiving money from anybody. So I don't think that the ships would be too expensive if they lowered the amount that we could earn. Although, because we have wipes so often, it would definitely be worse that way. Space Cadet, you feel like refining is going to be next? So do I. Ace, thank you for the super chat, man. The expanse ship for refining would be great. I really do hope that's what they bring in this year. Nigel, also thank you for becoming a supporter over on YouTube. I hope you enjoy the exclusive videos you get over there. Thank you so much for the support. Do you feel like the later tier of salvage will bring about repair and rearm? Could be, yeah. Gooser just replied, okay. All right, let's get back into it then.
Language. But that is what it will be. You'll be really annoyed at that point and you'll use those curse words. So that's pretty much the idea. The goal is to create this gameplay loop where at this point, you add the trader, not the trader, the hauler. He's not a trader. He will help this mining operation. He will be coming every, 5 minutes, comes, takes whatever was refined by the starfare, puts in his cargo hold, goes sell to the market, come back. And that creates an entire operation that an organization can run for hours and just like keep churning profit. The difference is, the starfare might not be able to refine as good as the station does with like 95% yield, but it doesn't matter because what you might get 80% or 60% doesn't even matter because what you're transporting is so much smaller and condensed in value. You don't have to transport unrefined ore and ship by ship and it takes forever. So you're transporting very high yield, going there, selling, ship comes back. And this is where another fun part comes in. You actually get pirates coming in and preying on this chain. They might destroy the prospector. They might destroy the refinery. They might destroy the hauling ship that is transporting the refined stuff to the station. And this is where you hire mercenaries or get your organization people to come in and protect your operation. Some will have to fly with the transport ship. Some will have to protect the refiner ship. So it creates this entire ecosystem where you have people preying on each other, helping each other, trying to make as much money as possible in as little time as possible, rather than waiting for an entire day for the station to refine stuff.
Honestly, that's going to put so much emphasis on the cargo ship. Imagine how much money that cargo ship will be worth when you've refined like 50 SCU of gold. You've got nothing, no inert material, no other material. You just got boxes upon boxes of gold from your mining job. Yeah, you're gonna need combat escorts for that kind of thing. You're seeing that prices of ships go up, so if per hour earnings go down, in the current state of the game, server drops and wipes, you've lost around 1.5 million and have only been playing for a month. It will take a while if we keep losing what we make. Yeah, I agree with you there. When it comes to losing money right now, that makes it harder. But it would be, it all kind of has to happen at the same time, right? As they're putting these things in and starting to figure out economy stuff, and this might not even happen until beta. But as they're doing that stuff, we've got to start seeing more stability so that we can play longer, like you're saying. So I don't think they should do raise the prices of ships and lower the earnings amount before the game is able to keep up with that. But I think at some point that might be where they're leaning.
So it sounds like if we were to really illustrate the differences between ship-based refining and station-based refining, we're talking about a far more active and involved process for the player on ships.
There's no AFK refining. No AFK refining in any way.
You have to pay attention to all the tidbits of the refining process, like the
So it must be-
temperature. It's like similar to mining,
It must be much shorter then, because refining as it is now takes like 5 to 25 hours.
but a little bit more complex, because there on the refining ship you have the reactor that could have a various amount of methods. So as already mentioned, there could be a furnace, there could be electrolyte system that could grow or help grow or separate crystals. Like you could add in some solvents like acids that would help you, and the entire reactor is built around that. So you could basically, in the end, our goal is to have you, as the owner of the refining ship, tailor your the refining process to your demands. So, for example, imagine a situation where you or your friend is focusing on mining just minerals. So you wouldn't have a furnace there, right? You would have prepare your reactor in a way that the reactor is more efficient with minerals than with metals. So this is basically our goal, that you customize.
So you can be a specialized, I mean, they're pointing towards this with mining too, in that they want people now to look for specific materials. You can also, as a refiner, then specialize in refining certain types of things. So you're not taking every job, but you're specifying for the job you're on.
It to your demands.
Now,
6 hours? I think this will be on the scale of minutes, 5 to 10 minutes maybe, to refine a solid amount of material. They want you to have gameplay, but they don't want to run you down. You know, if you're not walking away from the computer, 5 minutes of dedicated, like hard, intensive gameplay, however intensive refining can be, is, I think, a good chunk. Like 5 minutes, take a 30-second to 1 minute break, start again, that kind of thing.
One more thing to add to that, it's you're customized to what you want to refine, but you can also customize the ideas.
It's also why they would have to lower the prices, right? Or something. I don't know. It doesn't seem like it would be a good idea to make people wait 6 hours to refine something with their spaceship. Do you store it in a space station? Does it still active while you're in a space station? Why not just take it back to the space station at that point to refine? Why take it to a ship and then park that ship in a space station? So they need to make sure that it has some reason to be a better option than station refining. I don't think they'll roll out the Galaxy with refining now.
Player to customize the Starfarer, because the Starfarer was a ship that's supposed to do refueling, and it was also supposed to do refining. So it's up to the players how many tanks for storing stuff, for storing solids, for storing liquids and gas, for storing fuel, or how many reactors does he equip on that ship. So it's up to him how much he wants to store, and maybe the Starfarer is the one that sells, because you don't have a hauling ship, and he just comes back, keeps refining, because then he needs a lot more transporting capacity. So yeah, we're trying to offer all these options, and then it's up to the player to play however he sees fit and whatever the situation needs.
Okay. Now we don't generally do when questions on the show. You know, we leave the when questions.
Most important question.
In public roadmap. That's all the best and the most accurate when information.
And keep in mind, this is June of 2021.
Information that we have is on that roadmap, folks. That said, the stuff that we're talking about here, the refining, is this theory crafting of something we're going to work on someday in the future, or is this stuff that we're actively developing right now?
It's in design. Well, design is done and approved. It's waiting an actual programmer to finish some of his current work and to jump on this.
Awesome. So signed off, approved design.
I wonder if that laugh right there was because Thorsten is in charge of this, in which case it would make sense if Thorsten was busy with like the tractor beam stuff and the engineering stuff, and maybe had to take some time to get to refining. Stations also are like 6,000+% versus a refining ship, which will only do that one job, so it won't have those hour-long times. Yeah, stations are wildly overwhelmed with work orders.
his current work and to jump on this.
Awesome. So signed off, approved design, just waiting for resources to get going.
Pretty much.
Okay, so they don't really have any big tech blockers for refining then. They're just waiting for the dev to be able to make it work. I think there's a pretty good chance this will be our next with refining, but let's continue. Oh, why is this here? Wow, my tabs really got messed up. Okay, so this is a look at the first ship that will likely bring refining to the game, called the Expanse. Many of you have seen this reveal. Some of you, though, may have not been here this long ago. So let's take a look at this inside Star Citizen. They'll talk a little bit about the Expanse, what it's bringing, refining, and how it will work with this ship. And it's also got a lot of cool B-roll and eye candy.
Let's take a look.
Whoa, that's loud.
We've got quite a few ships already in the MISC manufacturer lineup.
You have the Prospector, you have the Starfarer,
Hull series.
but we wanted to have dedicated entry-level ship into the refining gameplay career for ship owners.
Can see it being 5 to 10 minutes, but very heavily reliant on hydrogen fuel. That would be nice, yeah, if they, because it has the reactor, so we need fuel to burn. So they're probably going to have some kind of a resource you have to burn off to refine this stuff. That's a really good point, Greco. You've watched a lot of CIG vids to date. Many just add more vagueness to the already gray, ambiguous layer cake that points to another 10 potential years of alpha. Well, watch with me, and I'll dig through that vagueness for you as much as I can.
The MISC Expanse fills a great hole in the gameplay loop of the entire.
If ever you are bothered by their progress, just remember that despite all the people they have working on this game, they are actually understaffed. You can tell by their customer support. Ray Whiskey, thank you for the sub. I really appreciate the support over here on Twitch. Just joined. Apologies if you've already covered this. Do you think refining will be released during 3.x or will it be 4.0? That I have not gotten to. And I couldn't tell you. I don't know. I couldn't give an answer on that one, to be honest. Static, we're currently watching the Expanse inside Star Citizen. Cantor, I saw you. First up in here. Okay. Back into it.
Mining refining cycle, because currently you go out to the far reaches of space, you mine some rocks, you fill up your capacity, then you yourself have to trek all the way back to the grain station or somewhere like that to refine, and then you have to trek all the way back to go continue mining, whereas Expanse can be the middleman where you take on board mined goods, you process it, and then you can either sell it yourself.
John's face looks, honestly, John's face is, you're not wrong on that. Hey, thanks for the bits, Cantor. John is the lead on one of the vehicle teams. I honestly don't know which one at this point. I don't know if it's all of them or what. Let's see what it pops up. He says, it just says vehicle director. This dude has to do a lot when it comes to ships, right? And think about how many ships are coming out. We get probably 4 to 6 ships a year, maybe, I think. That might actually be overestimating. I'm not sure. But in terms of actual ships coming into the game, we get a decent amount, but not like an overload. Definitely not like we were getting in 2018 or 2019. But these ships are the only thing that's keeping this company afloat. Literally the only thing that keeps this all going is if this guy and his team can keep making ships that are interesting enough and convincing enough for people to give more money. So like 800 plus developers, 2 games, 10 years of development, all kinds of vitriol and conversations surrounding the validity of the project. And it all comes down to the 20 to 30 people who are putting these ships together under this guy. So you can imagine the ship team probably, like, as much as they are the people that we people kind of demonify them, demonize them because they're the ones who are pumping out the ships. But in reality, they're the only ones who keep this project going. And I imagine it must be incredibly stressful for them when they're understaffed doing that. That being said, I wish they would, that's a product of how they've grown and how they pitched the project. They put themselves in this position. So the way I see it, I think it's worth it to understand that and to have that insight and sympathize with it, but also, you know, it's not an excuse. It's not a get out of jail free card. Do you know if the expanse is going to be soloable or make a decent profit with a crew having to split? You're probably not going to be able to solo this thing. It's pretty big. Like, look how big these people are. It's an industrial ship, so you'll probably want somebody who is working engineering and like keeping things working as well as flying the ship. Or you want somebody who's refining and engineering. But I think you're going to probably want 2 people on this. It's a solo ship. I mean, if this is a solo ship, then the Starfarer is a solo ship. And I guess we could try that. We can always try that. People shouldn't demonize employees. They should demonize management. Well, and management is led by employees. Also, don't demonize anybody. Just be angry. Don't paint them as something worse than they are. Marketers kind of suck, but like that's their job, to suck. Literally. They're supposed to convince us to buy things. You think data running tier 0 would be something easy to add? Yeah. Yeah, you would. Unfortunately, I think... Actually, I don't know if I would. Seems like there'd be a lot of little details you'd have to figure out with data running. Because it's basically another form of cargo hauling, right? Just a different type of cargo. So you'd have to figure out like the physicality of it. How is it stored? How is it transmitted? How long does it last? That kind of stuff. I can see the design of that being a little bit frustrating. Gravity, thank you for the bits. I appreciate it. The interior of the Expanse is really small. Oh, okay. Basically just that front section. Maybe. I guess they'll talk about it here in this video too. Keep giving CR your money, it will all work out. See, now that is a dumb statement. That is a very dumb statement. Don't do that. Don't give money just because you want it to all work out. Give money because you're in the position to. And you actually have like a real reason to. Don't just throw money at the project. Also having to switch out the bags a lot with the mining ships. That's true. You could do that all yourself. It just might take a while. Data running would need hacking first. I think data running won't happen until after we get the new star map. How's it feel to be a fully fledged streamer now? I don't feel like a streamer. Too many problems still. Too many technical issues. It's got to be smooth, right? If you interdict in soft death a data runner, what do you do after that? Just blow them up. You know. Expanse itself is soloable. Yeah, it might be the case. When do you think the next time the Orion and Expanse will be on sale? Expanse? Probably whenever, yeah, IAE. Whenever they finish the ship.
And be the middleman, where you take on board mined goods, you processes it, and then you can either sell it yourself, or you can transfer it back to a cargo ship, and they complete the whole gameplay loop. The Expanse is the starter ship in the sort of refinery tier.
Okay, yeah, so maybe it is soloable. If it's a starter ship, I thought it was bigger than that. My bad.
On other ships such as the Starfarer, but they're more specialized into purely doing fuel. Where the Expanse has a bonus over them is it has what we call reactors on them, and at a very simplistic level, one reactor is one refinery process, and the Expanse has 6 of them on board. So it allows you to potentially do 6 entirely different refinery processes simultaneously.
So these are your reactors back here. I think the pods come in from the bottom on those reactors, or maybe, no, they're right here. But there's something on the bottom in the middle too. And then you've got all the pods over here. I'm guessing it pulls from there to refine. It's a cool ship.
For maximum output, you can do 6 of all the same type and really sort of improve your bandwidth, so to speak, of refinery. We picked Myth because it sort of fits that industrial aesthetic.
You've got the rounded front nose of the ship, but then what you'll notice, you've got the well, not massive, but you've got the big shoulders, and that's also on the Starfarer, and so we wanted to keep that. So it's sort of basically big airflow, big intakes, straight into an engine and then back out. When people look at the back, there are certain visual elements there that you'll see that are common throughout the ship manufacturers. You know, it's sort of the ball engine almost, very sort of defined fins that surround that spherical engine.
Man, we should switch over to data running, huh? A lot of chat about data running. I think it will be exclusive to certain ships, but I also think it'll be something that you can do in the same sense that you can salvage with a personal tool. There will be ways to have data with you, I think, when you're moving around. That hasn't been confirmed yet, though. What data is even being run? I would say generally location data, probably resource locations, prices, missions, things like that. There's no natural transferring of things between star systems. So by default, we'll always have to have people who are going between star systems and relaying data. But also in the system you're in, there is something called long distance probing, which is basically honing in on a point of interest that nobody really knows about. You find the location, you store it in your ship, and then you sell it like a box. But I think it's mostly going to be location and resource data that people are hauling, and probably like missions, you know, little documents and stuff that companies have, those kinds of things that they just build into the lore.
And also the other sort of main feature is the 8 pods. There are 4 on either side. It really gives this ship a unique look.
Oh, it is small.
Yeah, there's no mistake
Wow.
in this ship. People might be familiar already with sort of MISC interiors are generally sort of a letterbox kind of viewpoint. You know, it's very widescreen. You know, you've got that basically when you're sat in the pilot seat, you've got all your instrumentation laid out in front of you. It's all quite sleek, holographic. It's still sort of quite compact because it is a one-man ship. Leading from the cockpit,
Polaris release dates.
It will take you into just a small living section.
Smaller than I thought.
Bed, locker, that kind of stuff. And then progressing to the rear of the ship is just a really small sort of like operations room, basically, where you can interface with the refinery section. And there's a little window there, and you can sort of see through into the gubbins. And you'll have a little bit of a display that you'll be able to do some of your interaction with. It's split level, so to get out of the ship, basically you'll enter into a really sort of compact and bijou lift.
I'm curious, what is a profession Care Bear? It's like somebody who cares about the blue-collar workers. Like, I am here for the workers. Oh, crap.
Let's
What'd I
take a
just
look.
do? No, I lost my spot. Oh, man. Where was I? Here?
Compact and bijou lift, or an elevator, as some people say. That'll take you down to the lower floor. Jared, you might want to call it the ground floor. And then outside down a ramp.
By killing them?
So, yeah, quite small.
Yeah, I mean, like, you get a escort. How are you going to stop the Polaris with a Mantis from robbing you of all your hard work? Well, first we'd have to make sure that Polaris is going to get everybody paid. I mean, how many people you putting on there? 3 people? Plus the Mantis? So 4 people. You got to come through, take out my ship, and guarantee that you're all going to get a reasonable payout. And you're going to have to deal with my combat escorts. And you're going to have to board the ship and fight me in FPS. So your Polaris and Mantis might be impressive, but if you suck at shooting, you're not taking anything. Someone who does professions and avoids PvP. Oh, that's not a Care Bear. That's just somebody playing the game. If you just do industrial stuff and don't like PvP, that's not a... I don't... Alright. 4 people, bro. I'm in a huge pirate org. Okay, let's boost it up then. You got to take 10 people here to take down my expanse. How much money are you paying out each person? 20,000? 40,000? Worth it? 3 hours of gameplay? You got to prep. You got to find us. You got to get to us. You got to kill our escorts. You got to board the ship, disable it, kill us, and then fly the ship to go sell this stuff given that we've already done all the refining for you. Put in data runs in that. Anyone that's not a sociopath is a Care Bear. I mean, you can't avoid PvP. You can't avoid it, but you can not like it. That doesn't make you any different of a person than anybody else. You just play the game and like don't want to get shot at while you're playing. That's fine. I don't want to get shot at while I'm playing either. Doesn't mean I'm not going to turn around and fuck up the pirates. The way that people talk about this, about being pirates and like stealing stuff and like, oh, we're gonna get you because you don't like PvP, is, in my opinion, embarrassing. Because there are so many people who are playing this game who don't like PvP and completely understand what the game is meant to be. I've done tons of videos talking about how like you will see PvP, but you will be able to minimize it. You will be able to hang out in Terra, where somebody couldn't fly in with a Polaris and a Mantis and 30 pirates and gank you while you're doing a cargo run. That's the difference between doing gameplay in Pyro and doing gameplay in Terra. It's the difference between going out with an escort and going out by yourself. You can talk all you want about killing people and how they don't want PvP, but the fact of the matter is that this game's going to teach people to defend themselves. If it gets too annoying, then you get upset, but it fits. Right, and the whole idea is like it's supposed to get so annoying that we start paying people to protect us. It's a give and take. It's supply and demand. If you run a trade route and you start getting attacked on that trade route, you hire someone to come with you. If they're not enough, you hire more people. If that's not enough, maybe you pick a different trade route. But people keep acting like Star Citizen is going to be like, you do an encounter, and then that's it. Wipe the board clean. You don't learn from that. You don't make any differences. You don't combat that. You don't react to that. And like, that's not how it works. I've never played an MMO before, but I can't imagine people get beat in a battle and then just give up. Is that how it is in Eve? You're going to run face first into people who are better armed, better trained, and better prepared. True. For every person that likes to be a badass pirate, there is somebody who likes to be a badass militia person who is running defense for other people. There are full orgs of people who are like, yeah, we're going to be security, and we're just going to hang out on cargo ships and mess up people who try to board them. Don't underestimate how many different types of people are in the player base. We literally already have escort beacons in the game and no one uses them. Right, because they're crappy. Once they're easy to use, maybe we will start. Is a vision from someone with knowledge, but in the future more and more players will enter in the game thinking it is a PvE game. They're going to need to learn. I mean, I think already Star Citizen suffers from people expecting a game that they're not playing, and for them it's going to suck. People are like, I'm going to have to manually load my cargo. You're like, yeah, we've been waiting for that for a decade. Hey Gumbo, how are you doing? Thanks for dropping by. Thanks for the sub, dude. How have you been? Thought you could get away with just hard points on your Corsair, but you learned and put gimbal back on. Yeah, the gimbal helps. Especially with a ship like a Corsair. People give up all the time. People do give up all the time. But I think your boy who's flying this expanse out into the middle of space, either A, they're going to die and get left behind, or B, they're going to know how to combat pirates. Not to mention you're measuring the game now where your anonymity is protected. Yeah, there's like no reputation. The reputation in the game right now is terrible. You don't get attacked for doing little things that you should get attacked for. Like, if you're attacking another player, I don't know if the space stations automatically attack you. I think you have to get a crime. Thank you for the 5 subs, man. That's huge. Payday subs, I really appreciate it, man. Congrats on, you know, finishing off a good month. Thank you for gifting that out to all people. Once they have the safe systems, then those that don't want PvP can hide in the safer spaces. Yeah, and even then you'll still be at risk. Org interaction is going to help a lot. Org interaction is going to be big. I mean, right now, if you get attacked in game and you want your org to come help you, you have to like go out to Discord. Theory crafting. I'm not theory. I mean, I don't know. What's the difference between theory crafting and just regurgitating what they say? They do auto attack you if you are in the area without a comm zone. Okay, that's good. Somebody suicide rammed you and got a crime stat 1. Valid. That was a good consequence. Problem with hiring escorts is that there's no price you can pay them that will leave you with a profit that they can't make quicker doing other things. And that's all economy balance stuff. I don't even want to touch that. We'll get to the economy a little bit over here. We've actually got Tony Z here. We're going to talk a little bit about bounty hunting. So we'll touch on economy, but I think that's really going to be what that comes down to. What's up, Crouch? Good evening, sir. What if you hired pirates as an escort and get double crossed? We actually had pirates as our escort. If you look on my YouTube channel, we did a mining adventure a couple weeks ago and our escort were pirates. They did not double cross us, but they were pirating. All right, let me jump back to the expanse here. Let's finish this out. Been out of the loop. Any news on server meshing lately? None at all. They are completely quiet on server meshing. Can't put bounties on people right now. Maybe someday.
I mean, I think the ship is going to be kind of cool. I mean, obviously it's it's a niche role and it's not going to appeal to every player, but I think as a ship and as an owner, I think people are really going to like it. I think they're probably going to sort of, really start to gel with it. It's got a lot of, it's got a lot of personality, I would say. And, I hope that, people, A, will enjoy what it does, but B, will also sort of enjoy the visuals of the ship and just flying around in it and just having that sort of one-man support experience.
Okay, he just said one man. You guys are right. It's a solo ship. That's crazy. Wait, let me look that up. I feel like it's so big. All right, let's hop on the wiki. It is 35 meters long. Okay, yeah, that's shorter than I thought. That's like I feel like the MSR is 35 meters long or so. Oh my god, this thing might be tiny. What is this at? Oh, Jesus, no, it's 56. Okay, I was off on the MSR. Vulcan? How tall, how long is the Vulcan? I feel like the Vulcan's got to be 30. 38. Okay, so this is about the same size as a Vulcan, which I always thought of as a small ship. So I need to completely reconsider how I've been thinking about the Expanse. Does it fit on a medium pad? Bit bigger than a Prospector? How long is a Prospector? Prospector's got to be like 30, right? Can't be that big. Am I just completely out of... Yeah, it's 26. So it's got like 10 meters on the Prospector. 12. Or no, I'm sorry. 9. 9 meters on the Prospector. I'm surprised. When I was looking at these, I always thought the Prospector seemed significantly smaller. But I guess it's about 10 meters. Still, that's impressive. So we're going to have ships that are bigger than this for refining, right? I guess we have the Galaxy and the Odyssey. Vulture is the same length. Are you serious? I'm so off on size of the Expanse. 33 meters the Vulture is. Yeah, I guess that makes sense because you got the whole cargo thing in the back and then you got these long arms out front. Oh, man. Okay, so the Expanse is a smaller medium ship then. It's a small ship. It literally says small ship. Are you f***ing kidding me? Somebody come look at this. It's a small. Oy. Shows how much I know about this game. Okay, well, the Expanse is a small ship. Cool. So this is your starter refining ship. This will most likely definitely be, probably going to be the ship in... Is it a typo? Is it a typo? Is it a medium ship? Can I like... Hold on, let's look at... Vulture says it's small. What about the Vulcan? I don't know. Vulcan says it's medium. Okay. So is the small to medium cut off at like 36 meters? Because the Vulture is 33. Okay, so this thing is like upper end of a small ship. I think maybe they switch over from small to medium somewhere between 35 and 37 meters. So technically it's a small ship, but it is pretty large for a small ship. Either way, I'm surprised by it being that small, and that makes it a lot more interesting to me. Because that means this is something that new players can eventually look towards rather than thinking they're going to get it, 5 years down the line. Look at the RSI website. What does it say on the RSI website? That's so far away. You make me go all the way to their website. Their site which doesn't make sense. Oh man. Small. Have a single small shield. It doesn't say if it's a small or not. I don't feel like finding the... Oh, there we go. It's a medium? Oh, smedium. Specs, 35 meters. S1. Oh, it's got a tractor beam. 6 refineries. I'm not seeing anything about like what they define it as in size, but clearly it's about the same size as the Vulture. Pretty cool. All right. So here we have a little bit of, I think we talked a little bit about the tractor beams here. So this doesn't really go into refining. This is more peripheral on the topic of that, but let's see what they were saying. This is actually pretty recent, 3 weeks ago.
Before we move on to stuff, let's talk. So that's what we're doing for 319. A little bit about what we're doing for 319. Obviously not a comprehensive list because I pulled the question out without preparing you. And you
it says small. Okay.
Comprehensive list. That's on me. Can you give us a little bit about where we want to go with mining going forward after 319? Is this now it for a while, or is there something else in the back of our head we already know we want?
Supposit asked a good question. Wouldn't we see the Expanse on the progress tracker if they were actively working on it for the refinery gameplay? Yes. Let's take a look. Not on there? Do they have anything about refining gameplay on there? Well, I will say this. The progress tracker is not the place to find gameplay they're working on. Yeah, no, I wouldn't trust this. If they can't even list refining gameplay here, you can go to the April monthly report. So they're doing the first block out for the UI screen, and the gameplay for refining methods were discussed. Team now has a clear understanding of what the different deliverables will look like and how the actual gameplay will play and feel. Funny, because you guys had the design down 2 years ago. So yeah, they're getting there. They're working on refining, clearly. The team completed their initial pass on refineries. Oh, sorry, this is just for space stations. So they're working on ship refining. It's still pretty early, so it's not sounding like it'll be in the next update or anything like that. Probably closer to 4.0. But they are working on it. They might not be working on the Expanse, but refining's getting there. You don't see the C1 Spirit on the tracker? Well, we know that's being worked on as well. again, this is another product of the fact that they are understaffed. They don't have enough people to keep the progress tracker up to date. Unfortunately. Then again, that's, you know, one of the lesser important things. One of the lesser important things in the grander scheme of things. Drop HC and Star Marine game modes and focus all things on PU and Squadron. We don't even have vehicle armor in the game yet, and they said it will be a long time till we do. Yeah, that's a bummer. That was not fun to hear. Everyone's understaffed. Fair. Which is why we see everybody kind of drop the ball. Track stuff. Yeah, I can't tell you why it's not up to date. Honestly, that's why I don't look at the progress tracker all that much. Okay, back to this.
Want to do as our next steps?
So there are definitely some next steps that are already planned out. Some that I don't want to talk about yet.
Aimless, I actually wouldn't assume that, because they have said that they have a Gladius with physical armor working. So clearly they are focusing on getting it into the Squadron 42 ships right now. I think when they say that it might not be coming for a while, that's talking more about the PU.
But others that we can definitely talk about, which is
yeah, they've got the Gladius already having physical armor. It's a prototype, but like clearly it's on the scale of months rather than years when it comes to Squadron.
Like this distribution of the resources helps us drastically to already plan out all the next steps that will, as Dan so nicely always mentions, it's like we really want to close out the loop, right? So you start at mining, you pick up the resources, may it be mining, may it be salvage, then you bring it to your refinery, you refine it to the processed goods, and once you have it in the processed goods, you bring it to your crafting facility, crafting ship, crafting whatever, and then you create the requested items out of them, and then you can even like circle back to like recycling the goods that you created and bring them back into the loop. So recycled items out, and then you create the requested items out of them, and then you can even like circle back to like recycling the goods that you created and bring them.
So this pretty much confirms that we will be literally crafting, right? I think we had a conversation about that a couple weeks ago. Will we be crafting, or will we just be like, you know, getting new guns and stuff?
Yeah, requested items out of them, and then you can even like circle back to like recycling the goods that you created and bring them back into the loop. So yeah, this is the ultimate goal. And with the current mining update, we are one step closer to achieving that. While I think we already mentioned it, that we are already working on the next steps in our team. So it's an active development. But no, it will not only be so. But talking about mining in particular, no, that's not the end of it. And the reason is because there are still some ships missing that were announced,
right,
and they should have their own treatment of how you play mining with those.
right. Things like the Orion.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's also a lot of the things that are going to change, exactly as we said. Eventually it all leads to crafting and making your own items out of nothing. You start out of nothing with a ship and you get this. But there's a few very interesting things along the way. One of the closest things right now are going to be those mining sacks. We need to be able to eject, collect, put into a refinery, process all that, or turn into refined materials, take that to a refining, a manufacturing ship, or sell it, or whatever you want to do. So the main thing is like we're seeing this as a mining operation. We're seeing this as mining, refining, hauling, production, crafting,
right,
manufacturing operation that you can run. You can run it with 2-3 people, or you can run it on a full scale where you have whatever 20 prospectors, 5 refinery ships, 3 haulers, escort for all of them, It's all that thing. Once that ecosystem starts going, you're going to see some amazing operations in Star Citizen.
All these
Just fix the party system.
all these loops, connect to form a chain. They all link into one, into another, to basically, work to do mining is also work that will affect crafting, will affect refining and stuff. It's all building out this industrial way of life in the persistent universe. It's basically
exactly, and pretty much all of these industrial professions are going to feed into some form of refining / crafting. That's kind of the pinnacle of everything, whether you do it from mining, whether you do it from salvaging, or any other system that's going to be coming down the line, whatever, picking lovely flowers because they have some oil that you can extract from them and use that to lubricate your machine guns or whatever. That's a different, so it all feeds into this thing where you can produce your own items and create hopefully a very flourishing economy where people trade whatever they produce today with whatever someone else produced.
So let's flip over to another one of those game loops that's linked salvage.
Okay, we know salvage. So that's refining. Now let's move on to cargo hauling, which is probably going to be the next profession update. It's not a new profession, but what they're going to do with it will likely be a pretty big deal. By the way, Senior Cinco, thank you so much for the sub. Appreciate you on Twitch. This is going to be... The new version of cargo is going to be manually loading and unloading your ships. It's going to be moving stuff around with tractor beams. It's going to be using freight elevators. It's going to be probably paying NPC... maybe not NPCs, I don't know. Paying to get your ship loaded. This is going to change up the flow of cargo a lot, and it harkens back to what I was saying about mining in that this could be something that lowers the amount of UEC per hour people are making on average. And in we go.
Cargo refactor. So we're going to start with some questions on the cargo refactor first. Right off the bat,
let's just this is from 2021, so you're going to hear some stuff we actually already have in this, but they'll talk also about future plans.
Why don't we just set the stage here? What is the cargo refactor and what isn't the cargo refactor?
Sure.
What are we actually trying to do here? What are we talking about when we say cargo refactor?
Cargo can be refactored in many ways to help make the game play better. We've obviously got the cargo profession that we're working towards, but specifically the way cargo worked. So in the past here, up till we finished this, when you bought something from a shop, it got statically placed into your ship's cargo hold and you could not interact with it. When the ship exploded, we kind of jettisoned out, smaller versions of the boxes that you could actually grab and take back to your ship, which could then be sold at a shop somewhere. But this refactor is going to give us a kind of a clean slate as far as how we define what our commodities are. There was some stuff that was just legacy that caused problems that we wanted to fix. But the big thing for the players is that it's going to be physicalizing the cargo within the cargo grid. It also sets us up for some other stuff that we're going to talk about in a bit, persistent hangars and just the cargo gameplay as a whole. But from the player's perspective, it's the physicalization of the cargo. You can now tractor beam stuff off the grid. You can also tractor beam stuff onto the grid. You're also going to be able to jettison larger size boxes, right? So it's not just going to be the small ones anymore. We can start doing the bigger ones. So as far as what I would expect to see in the first iteration of it would be generally that.
Yeah, if I could just add to that one thing that I would say.
And we've seen that.
I think hopefully everyone's noticing that there's all this effort now with loot and inventory that's been coming out. Cargo is being refactored, just kind of reimagined in this new world where we have localized inventory. What that means is that there are going to be commodities in certain kinds of containers that have various compositional contents for the various commodities that you'll want to trade, but there'll also be things that are inventory containers as well that can contain actual items, and they can nest. So inventory containers themselves are entities. So this can mean that you can be potentially trading and shipping in your cargo grid inventory as well as commodities, which means that looting is going to be available for the contents inside of the cargo grids as well. And the contents, as you move them around, that the localization of them is going to become much more important to the future, unlike right now.
All right. So as far as diving into some of the questions that we're seeing from both the live chat and the Spectrum thread here, right off the bat, will we be able to take other people's cargo, both forcibly and or with permission? I'm glad they allowed for both options, as well as the saddlebags on the Prospector or the Mole. So there's a couple questions in there. So let's do the first one. Will we be able to take cargo from other people forcibly or with permission?
That as long as you can access it, whether it be through their cargo grid, getting into their ship somehow, if you can disable the ship without blowing it up, right, and can get in, sneak onto their ship, you can maybe get off with some valuable packages. So yeah, and I guess one of the things that we kind of missed talking about the refactor here is that the way that the Prospector bags, for instance, were set up was that they were all kind of part of the ship, right? It was just an animated pod, but this will set us up to allow us to detach those for other people to come and pick them up, taking them to refineries so that the mining ship can keep going. So it is kind of like a all-inclusive, it's just an item like any other item at this point, right? And whether it's attached to the outside of a ship or placed inside of a ship, it's kind of all that.
Okay.
It's kind of cool.
And for clarity, when that first started even getting discussed within the team, within the first 5 seconds, people were talking about like how cool it would be to run a heist and break into someone's ship and take their stuff, or force them to give you stuff because you've threatened to blow them up if they don't. Like that is 100%.
Yeah, and on the technical side, if I could just like kind of clarify a little bit. Previously, cargo instead of cargo grids were really just some data and some persistent representation, and we're changing it to be represented as entities. And for anyone that's not familiar with game dev terminology, an entity is this really generic term for just something that like a player might see in the game. So what that means is that the cargo boxes, the those Prospector whatever bag things, these things are going to be things that we have a lot more ability to allow to simulate independently, so that they can attach, detach, you can interact with them individually. So that gives us a lot of leeway to open up new gameplay opportunities, like actually stealing the sacks and then putting them onto your ship or putting them inside another ship, or just getting creative and other players do very interesting things. But yeah, so just largely a big part of this is just making them actually interactable objects in the world individually, as opposed to these like static fixed things.
It's funny how like listening to this, this is an old video. Listening to this from back in that time, I was so excited to hear these types of things. And now that they're in the game, I'm like, yeah, okay. Of course they do that. Like I look forward to this stuff a lot, and then it gets into the game and I'm just on to the next thing sometimes.
Yeah, 100%.
Definitely seems like it's ripe for future progress on things like piracy and stuff like that, because now these things will be, because they're physicalized in the world now they can survive explosions and stuff like that.
Absolutely, yeah, and could be damaged, right? So we want to be able to damage a container that might devalue what's in it, or it opens the door for a lot of the
Goose, thank you for the sub, man. Hope you're having a good day.
Last couple of years, and sets us up for being able to put a volatility system on it, or it's like, yeah, cool, it reacts to this other thing just because it's near it, right? Like because it's physically degradation, but because it's physically an item, we can start to calculate those things independently of each other, which is really nice.
And for the folks in the chat, they're asking about when. Keep an eye on the public roadmap. All when questions are answered by the public roadmap. As best as we're able to anyway. Let's see, what else do we got in the cargo factor? In regard to the cargo refactor, will there be any Lego style or snap to option to get boxes stacked nice and tidy when manually placed by hand or tractor beam or anything else?
So that was one of the things when we were starting to talk about what this refactor means. This is a bigger feature that spans more than just the USPU team, and much like we're working with the actor feature team on the personal inventory and the asset manager to kind of help go with that. This is something that we're going to need to work with them on, because that's a personal player experience thing that that's the mining tool or the tractor beam or the paw tool, right? So we will provide the hooks in order for them to be able.
Thank you for gifting out that sub as well, Gooser.
Snapping is almost
double support. I appreciate it.
Thing that we need, right? So when they're ready, it should have all the hooks they need to kind of just snap it in. And I think the first thing I would expect to see would probably be tractor beam interaction on that level, and then the physical placement. It probably need a little extra work just from the actor movement and you know, animation side of things, but certainly would be able to use the same data to do the snapping.
Well, we got that done and done.
Technically, we're implementing it, expecting that coming, and it's a planned part. The first release of Cargo may not include direct interaction and Lego style snapping, but the functionality under the hood from the Cargo system will support it.
Okay. Now, folks who have been who've been paying attention to social media today have noticed that the Star Citizen account announced that 3.14 is expected to go live later today. Talking about 3.14, one of the new highlight features of that is our Ninetales lockdown.
Excuse me.
Event that
Aren't we supposed to go into persistent? See, we were at 11 minutes, so I guess they talked about, okay.
Is what is the difference between persistent?
Okay, so this is kind of the next part of the Cargo refactor. This is what we can expect now with the next update. Hopefully in 3.20, but we don't know. We don't know for sure yet.
Persistent hangers and the personal hangers that citizens are familiar with.
The idea was, at least to my knowledge, was that these personal hangars were actually meant to be someplace that was in the game. You know, asteroid hangars were supposed to be on some place like Grimhex or wherever. The Revel in New York was supposed to be a Microtech hangar, right? So it's, I would not necessarily look at them as different places, but what we're going to provide is a place that you can customize. You can leave stuff and on the floor, and when you come back, it will be there. It is your place, kind of like the halves, where you can kind of go and dump stuff in your halves, but on a much larger scale. These will be things that you can buy. They'll be yours. You can rent them, maybe, things of that nature, right? It'll allow players to manage larger scales of cargo, things like that. You know, you can store, like, hangars are pretty big, right? So you can line some cargo up down one side and then spawn a different ship and then whoop, put it on that one. So it's, in a nutshell, it's taking that personal hangar and really just kind of transplanting that into the game and allowing the game to persist it in whatever state you leave it.
Yeah, I mean, if I could just add, I would say that persistent hangars are kind of a superset of hangars where they include the personal hangars, which are now persistent, but also will include other hangars that you could potentially interact with for other reasons. Because we're now going to make them something that you own, that means that there's going to be some locality tied to them. And there are going to be situations in the game where you may not have access to a hangar that you actually own at a given location. And there are going to be a set of processes in place that still allow you to facilitate certain gameplay loops. So that might mean maybe renting a hangar or having a temporary hangar for a certain transaction. And it even opens the door, you know, potentially for things like hangars associated with characters or missions and things like that. But yeah, Rob's, you know, exactly right.
That's interesting. So it could be used for like missions or set pieces or something. Oh, thanks for the hydration reminder.
Effectively, what we're doing is, you know, I mentioned before that cargo was being turned into entities, and then that allows us to have a certain amount of persistent gameplay associated with them. Same thing's true with the hangars. We're gonna now have the ability to simulate them as entities, very similar to ships, actually. So, you know, right now in the game, you can already like drop things in your ship, put ships inside of ships and store and restore them, and et cetera, et cetera. Hangars are going to start acting a lot more like that. And players are going to hopefully, you know, start thinking of them as something that's like an important part of their kind of fleet, their gameplay set.
Right. So the player hangars that people are familiar with, the Revel in York and stuff like that, those are under the umbrella, the greater umbrella of persistent hangars. But when they see the first version of persistent hangars show up on the roadmap and, you know, eventually make its way into the game, it is not that right away. It is working with the hangars that are there in game today, you know, the Area 18 ones and the Lorville ones, and creating persistent storage. And
yeah, so imagine you're going to choose your starting location of Area 18, and then the ships that you have at Area 18, you'll have a hangar there that comes with your starting, you know, location selection, right? And that's now your hangar. Instead of hangar 27, it's, you know, Rob's hangar, Rob's medium hangar, or whatever. And just like any other hab or persistent location, you can go there. Now, the only thing that, like, we're not going to build like one hangar entrance for every single player that's actually on the server, right? Or in the game as a whole. It's going to be controlled through ATC. So you're going to contact ATC, say, hey, I'm ready to go. And Chad can talk maybe about more of the technical side of this, of how we're going to be bouncing, you know, players around. But basically, we're going to take you, we're going to move you while you're doing your stuff inside your hangar. And then, hey, I'm ready to go. ATC gives you clearance. That opens up a door. Doors open. You fly out directly into the city, and it's all from your persistent hangar space.
So they're kind of gonna instance hangars, it seems like. Should be cool though. I really do hope this allows us to load multiple vehicles at a time, so we can load vehicles inside of vehicles while they're still in the hangar. That simplifies group gameplay a lot.
Yeah, so I'll just go a little bit into detail on that. So the idea is that no matter what, for now, we're going to have the locations that don't have the number.
I'll be right back, guys. You guys keep listening to this.
Even the current player limit, let alone whatever we increase that to with server meshing, right? So for that reason, we're always going to have this problem of too many players mapped to too few hangars. However, we do want to maintain the kind of player experience of feeling like you do own a hangar at a certain location for even these ones where they're too few. And so for that reason, we're actually going to pin the players to particular hangar entrances so that in your experience as a player, you'll go land somewhere, you'll fly away from somewhere, and it's always from the same hangar at that location physically. Now, there is, you know, the players may notice that there's going to be a kind of, you know, magical sensibility to it, which because if we have 100 players in the server or whatever, or even the current 50, then, you know, the same players will be using the same hangar entrance and exits. You know, how is that possible? And the reason is because there's some magic happening behind a hood where we're magically moving these things around, and we're using zones to isolate them from each other, so that you don't see the fact that they're, you know, all getting kind of intermixed, but the experience for the players is that it's one continuous experience in and out. Now, that's for these locations, again, that have a more limited set. We absolutely, with this system, can expand it to have locations with larger amounts of hangars, which would then allow us to do things like individually put down persistent hangars for players. And, you know, that would probably have to work in accordance with some kind of procedural system for placing out very large numbers of them. And we do, you know, I know this comes up a lot. Players are very aware that we have the real estate, right? We have these huge planets. Like, what are we doing with all this space? Certainly, that's an opportunity. But for the first out, we're not going to have that, you know, unique one-to-one hangar experience for each location. Instead, it's going to be working with the locations that we have now. But the system will support, as we make it, will support it in the future if we can work in accordance with the environment and level design teams and planet teams to facilitate the other part that would be required to have that kind of experience.
It's like with anything else in Star Citizen. You bring it to the point of realism, then you bring it back to the point of fun. And it's people who, you know, if you physicalized every single hangar for every single player on the thing, somebody would have to park, you know, 13 kilometers out from Area 18 and have a 15-minute shuttle ride on the way in just to sell off their stuff and stuff like that. So we have to try to find that mix and match. But of course, as the game progresses and expands and stuff like that, we certainly do have the real estate to push farther and farther towards that realism. So like with anything, it'll continue to change and evolve.
So you will be able to, have they said, like, specifically we'll be able to load vehicles into the persistent hangars, or is that an assumption? Either way, this stuff, they didn't even talk about freight elevators, but this all sounds like a normal game way to do something pretty impressive. But it also kind of is like, it reminds me that we got a shot of this. I think this is a pretty important shot. Dang it. This shot shows like a mini landing zone almost. That's just supposed to be a building with a few hangars in it that connects to other buildings that will be like sort of like a mission area almost. This, I think, is something they weren't fully on board with at the time they were talking about this persistence. But it seems like they really would like to put hangars in more areas than we were thinking before. And this is how he was talking about the whole scaling thing, making sure that they could make locations with enough hangars, would be things like this. Dan said it in the Berlin Citizen thing. Oh, okay, good. I forgot about that. I wonder if there's anything on there that's relative to this. Wasn't that via the freight elevators? I think so. So freight elevators are supposed to carry your cargo in. You're supposed to load the cargo. And the hangars are going to be a place where you can basically just store whatever you want for however long you need. Got some mining stuff that you're not ready to sell? You can just take them out, put them in your hangar, and wait until the next couple days. That's a pretty nice perk. All right. So here we are talking, I think this is just further in the episode. Nope, this is a different episode. Here we're talking more about cargo? Maybe? Let's see.
Your spaces or even the stations, right? So if you have like a giant power plant and you just drop it in GrimHex, you could basically block away all the ASOP terminals, and then no one would be able to access them because tractor beams won't work. You cannot push them around, and yeah. So this is definitely not something that we can do with all the issues that we pointed out with the tractor beam being activated in the green zones. So sadly, we cannot do that. But also we want to do it right, which means that we are dependent on the freight elevators, because the freight elevators are basically the proper connection between your virtual inventories and your real space, right? Because like pulling something out of thin air is weird.
Yeah.
Put it this way. So you definitely want to have the freight elevators there.
Next question is from Luxor.
So yeah, freight elevators are going to be connection between our inventory and the real world.
Caterpillar owner. How will hull-mounted tractor beams, like on the Caterpillar, be able to move cargo inside the ship, considering the tractor beam is located outside of the ship and away from the cargo hold?
Yeah, we are aware of those. So we are working on also the vehicle side of the tractor beams.
Hey, Shifty.
And yeah, those need to be updated. Simple as that.
When you say updated, you mean the tractor beam locations moved?
So we talked to the vehicle team about that, and they had to do, especially for the older ships, they need to look into the tractor beam setup more thoroughly than just for the newer ships. So yes, there might be some updates on the actual item position for those.
A lot of good ships with tractor beams. So that's cargo. I don't really have much on cargo because they haven't talked too much about the new version yet, but we do know that persistent hangars, freight elevators, and manual loading and unloading is going to be a pretty big part of like the whole overall cargo gameplay. Seems to you like they use the term cargo and freight interchangeably. Freight elevators is like a bespoke name for something they're working on, but yeah, they use cargo and freight a little bit in the same ways. Okay, so that's refining and cargo. Now bounty hunting. This is one that is almost never talked about or even acknowledged. But if you do go to the progress tracker, you can see that bounty hunting is, oh, is it not? Nothing is showing up, huh? Yeah, things are messed up on here. What the heck happened? Bounty hunting is not here. Okay, well, bounty hunting is on the progress tracker, and it is well underway. Let me see if maybe there's like a screenshot of it or something. Nope. So yeah, I can't show you, but Bounty Hunting V2 is also on the way, and it will be the first thing that uses a new service called Virtual AI. Yeah, we'll be looking at the bounty offices. Tab into deliverables. It wasn't deliverables. I just don't think it works. It's not there. Yeah. So we're gonna start here first by looking at Virtual AI. Obviously, this is Tony Z, so put your glasses on. He talks about a lot of stuff that we still haven't seen yet. But the idea is their virtual AI is supposed to be introduced with Bounty Hunting V2. So this will give you an idea of kind of how missions are supposed to utilize NPCs to give us more things to do in the future. And it's supposed to be pretty dynamic. It's supposed to be pretty complex. It sounds very interesting. I'll let you guys listen to it yourselves, though.
Data to flow between Quantum and the game. With iCache now largely complete, we've been able to shift some resources around, and within the last month have now doubled the number of engineers working on the systemic functionality. As a result, we're now in the early stages of a number of critical new services, including everything from the air traffic control service that's required for server meshing, to the NPC scheduler that will enable dynamic populations, to the virtual AI service that is necessary for the next major feature I'm going to discuss.
There we go.
Star Citizen's AI architecture is broken up into 3 distinct levels. The high-fidelity characters that you see in the game execute subsumption logic on a server, and this is far and away the most computationally expensive of the 3 types of AI. It's got a similar sense-think act cycle as the other AI, but because you can see the NPCs as they execute their tasks, there's often little to no potential for cheating or simplification. Something as simple as sitting in a chair requires a lot of item searching, animation, raycasting, collision detection, and more. This is a problem because in Star Citizen we're trying to simulate entire solar systems, and we can't afford to execute this kind of expensive logic for tens of thousands of characters that players can't even see. So we do what many games do and temporarily suspend any AI that's not in proximity to a player. This creates another roadblock though, because you can't effectively simulate an economy when portions of it are constantly being shut down and restarted, and it's the fundamental reason why Quantum exists. Merging these 2 AI extremes, subsumption and quantum, solves our basic problem.
Can we note that he's saying quantum and not quanta? Let's spread that around. Word of mouth.
NPCs look and act exactly as you'd expect when you can see them, and the universe's economic wheels always remain in motion. There's one major flaw, however, with this solution. The heavyweight subsumption NPCs that you can see and interact with don't execute any AI logic when you're not around, and thus they're severely limited in what they can do and when they can do it. Solving this issue is the responsibility of a middle tier of systemic logic that I call virtual AI. Virtual AI allows virtual NPCs, VNPCs for short, to seamlessly transition back and forth between the fully realized and physical world of subsumption and a far more efficient intangible backend ether where they retain the ability to interface with elements of the systemic architecture just like a player. This technology is going to unleash a lot of new and exciting gameplay, but it's going to take more than a few sentences to properly explain what I'm talking about, so let's walk through it all in more detail. This is the Stanton solar system. You can see the 4 planets, ArcCorp, Hurston, Microtech, and Crusader. I'm going to zoom into the Crusader planetary area, and you can see its 3 moons, Yela, Daymar, and Selen, and the space station Port Olisar. You can imagine
Sorry, I'm sitting on
at that
top of
station,
him.
hundreds of
Just imagine it's me talking.
NPCs going about their lives. This is how you think of the universe, always in motion, always changing, always real, regardless of whether you're actually looking at it or not. As I mentioned, though, that's an illusion. We can't afford it. When you're not looking, the server deactivates and unloads a lot of unnecessary baggage, but a wide assortment of backend services retain knowledge of everything that really matters and provide an active interface to those systems. NPCs outside of landing zones are treated differently. Quantum accumulates statistical information for where NPCs should reside and what they should be doing from its quanta, which allows us to determine how often you should see a pirate or what a freighter you run into should have in its cargo hold. These areas are called probability volumes, and the important thing to note is that the NPCs they create are ephemeral. They pop into existence for a brief moment so that the area you're viewing looks like what Quantum says it should, and once they're sufficiently far from
When do we get a star map like that? Whenever you buy more ships.
I'm going to add a player here, which you can see off to the left. As they pass by Daymar, they're in range of a probability volume that eventually decides they should encounter a pirate. So a pirate is created and engages the player, and after a bit the player decides that they're outmatched and decides to run. Once they're sufficiently far from that NPC, it's destroyed. It doesn't persist in any fashion and you'll never see them again. The player continues traveling to Port Olisar, and the translucent green wireframe indicates that the area isn't loaded on the server, and thus the subsumption AI isn't active. I'm going to add a VNPC in a moment, but first let's quickly recap what makes them so different. VNPCs...
You know, I don't know if it's linked in just yet when it comes to interdictions. I think it might just be the commodities we get, refuel, repair, and restock. But remember, it's quantum, not quanta. And yeah, I think it's part of the Arc Star map.
These always execute some form of AI logic, regardless of whether or not they are in proximity to a player. Virtual AI is extremely lightweight and computationally efficient, stripping out all of the expense related to visuals and unnecessary details, yet retains the full ability to interact with the game in the ways that truly matter. Virtual AI executes within a backend service and can thus easily be scaled and doesn't put any load on the servers. vNPCs can seamlessly transition back and forth from lightweight, back-end-driven AI entities to full-blown, subsumption-driven NPCs, and are thus indistinguishable from an NPC that really did execute expensive subsumption logic all the time. Last,
Tango Zero, I would say wait for the game. I don't think it's at a place right now to play 1 to 2 hours a week. It's gonna be frustrating.
vNPCs gradually build up their own unique histories as they live out their lives. They evolve. Okay, so back to the example. Once the player gets close enough to Port Olisar, that area is streamed into existence, loaded onto a server, and the NPCs initialized to resume whatever they should be doing at that time of day. Now I'm going to introduce a vNPC pirate near the player, and they're going to immediately attack. After a few moments, the vNPC comes out ahead in this battle, and the player is killed. Because their crime was committed in range of an active comm, it's recorded in their character history along with the time and location of the felony. An upcoming tracking app will allow you to access information like this if you've registered with the local authorities so that the digital footprints players and vNPCs leave behind can be tracked. This vNPC's name is Dragon.
So this is where I know I've run you through this whole thing. This is where the bounty hunting starts to kick in.
And since they're now wanted in this jurisdiction, the comm has affixed a real-time marker to his position. With the only player in this area dead, the server now streams Port Olisar and the comm array out, but as I previously noted, vNPCs aren't destroyed like a regular NPC created from a probability volume, and their logic isn't suspended like an NPC at a landing zone. Instead, vNPCs simply transition from their physicalized state, where authority over their actions is controlled by subsumption logic executing on a server, to their native ethereal state, where their virtual AI executes on the back end. Dragon now begins to exit the area, and the comm array continues to track his position until he passes out of range, at which point the real-time information converts to a last known position report. He's decided that he needs money and he's a bit risk-averse, so he elects to head all the way out to Yellow, where there are quite a few transport freighters carrying valuable ore and little in the way of security. Okay, Dragon has arrived at Yellow's asteroid field and has now crossed back into range of another active comm array, so his real-time position is now once again being reported as indicated by both the character history and the tracking marker.
The whole point of this is to show how the systems in the game are going to act on NPCs the same as us. So if you're tracking an NPC and they're flying into different places, that security is going to pick them up, send those notifications to you, and let you know what's going on with them, even if they're not an actual physical thing in the game yet.
There aren't any players in this area, and thus none of this is streamed onto a server. Everything you're seeing is a result of a variety of different services communicating with one another. vNPCs trigger probability volumes just like players, and Yellow shows that there's quite a bit of freighter traffic in this area. So Dragon won't have to wait very long before he generates an encounter. There's one. Dragon just caused the creation of a freighter, which itself becomes a vNPC so that it can react to what's happening via its own virtual AI. Dragon now engages the freighter. He starts firing on it. He's still within range of an active comm array, and thus this latest crime is added to his character history. He's now wanted for both murder and piracy, and the bounty on him just jumped from 6 to 10,000 UEC. Increasing the size of their rap sheet and the price on their head is one of the simplest forms of vNPC evolution, and over time we'll look to add additional ways for vNPCs to grow and increase their influence, from recruiting followers in an attempt to become a shipping magnate or a crime boss to offering their own missions.
That's the part of this that I'm like, really? Offering missions? Becoming a character and giving missions out? I mean, it's possible, but will it happen?
The captain of that freighter isn't going to surrender so easily. He's broadcast a combat assist service beacon that players can choose to accept, and he's offered a 3,000 UEC reward for his protection. Unfortunately for him, he's pretty heavily outmatched, and he's quickly destroyed, causing the service beacon to expire before anyone can come to his aid. Bits of information like this are fed back to Quantum, and in sufficient quantity will cause all sorts of things to change. How much security patrol missions in that area pay, what transports that have to travel through that area will demand as a risk premium, and how much a ship in distress will offer for someone to come to their aid. The freighter's destruction has left some debris and possibly a few items of value, so if a player had already been en route, they might arrive to find the aftermath. Another murder has now been attributed to Dragon, and the bounty on him just once again jumped, this time from 10 to 14,000 UEC.
It's not very much.
He took a bit of damage from that encounter and is eventually going to need some repairs. A harder working pirate might look to plunder a few more freighters before heading back, but Dragon's personality attributes indicate that once he's got enough cash to cover the basics, he's more interested in drinking and gambling than piracy. So he leaves the area, and once again the real-time location tracking ceases once he's out of range of the comm array. He's heading back to Port Olisar, which is the closest location that has everything he wants. A fence to sell his stolen goods, shops to repair and restock his ship, and a bar where he can spend the remainder of his cash. The comm array near Port Olisar has been disabled, which means that Dragon's position isn't updated upon approach. The area remains devoid of any players, and thus it's still not streamed into memory. Dragon can therefore remain in his ethereal state and avoid a lot of computational expense related to maneuvering his ship, but he still needs to interface with the air traffic control service to request a landing pad and transition from his ship to the station. Services like this are always fully operational and accessible to VNPCs.
Imagine just killing 2 people and then rolling up to Port Olisar.
That landing request is logged to his history, though, so while the disabled comm array would make it a bit harder for a bounty hunter to track him, there are lots of other ways by which locational information on a character can be obtained. Dragon needed to refuel and repair his ship, and you can see those actions reflected in his history as he interfaces with the shop service that controls those operations. When a VNPC transitions to a landing zone that's streamed in, the virtual AI service that drives their logic temporarily cedes control of the character to the NPC scheduler that specifies who resides at what location. This is the same foundation upon which the dynamic populations feature will be built, except that it will be quantum instead of the virtual AI service dictating the changes in the population. The end result is that if a VNPC is assigned to a landing zone and you're at that location, you can run into them like any other NPC. Dragon is now hanging out in the local bar, which was added to Port Olisar for the purposes of this demo. If you were to walk into the bar at this moment, he'd be physicalized with the rest of the environment and you'd actually see him there. Dragon eventually gets his fill of entertainment, or maybe he just runs out of money. Either way, it's back to work, and he'll be jetting back to Yellow to try and prey on more unprotected cargo ships. So he contacts air traffic control to get clearance to leave the area and departs. The same player that Dragon first encountered and killed is looking to exact some revenge, though, and claims
they said they added a bar for the demo.
Bounty on Dragon's head. They've surmised that there might be a pattern to Dragon's movement and think that he might head back out to Yella. So they position themselves between Port Olisar, where they know.
I'm not sure why you said none of this matters to actual players. The whole point we're going over this is because this is what's going to drive the new bounty hunting gameplay. This is like literally, I mean, who out there as bounty hunters would rather fly to a place and shoot a ship, or look at these different signs of how somebody is moving around and catch them in the deed because you actually analyzed it? I think this is a much more interesting way of playing, and I'm glad they laid it out, or else we'd have no clue what bounty hunting was going to look like.
That Dragon just left, and Yella and activate a quantum interdiction field. Dragon, still in his lightweight ethereal form, initiates a quantum jump from Port Olisar to Yella and, just like a player, routes that movement through the probability volume service that is responsible for interdictions. Once he gets within range of the player's interdiction bubble, his jump is interrupted, and he transitions from executing virtual AI on the back end to a full-blown subsumption-driven AI executing logic on a server, so that the two of them can battle it out. If the player once again gets the worst of it, they might decide to change up their tactics a bit and wait to see if Dragon soon returns to Port Olisar, where they could try to sneak up on him on foot.
Okay, so that is virtual AI, which is the system that's going to drive bounty hunting first. That's kind of where they're bringing it in, but it's also going to probably power a lot of the rest of the game as well. As an active bounty hunter, the only way to get gameplay even close to this is hunting players. Can't wait for V2. Yeah, I think this is a huge improvement. Incorporating detective work into bounty hunting makes it way cooler than just here's where the guy is sitting, just find him there. That's what I think. It seems like a convoluted way to set up a bounty. Maybe. I mean, I think it makes sense if an NPC, so like you're in a static space and you have 10 NPCs. One of those NPCs has to become a criminal for you to be searching for a bounty, right? Now they could just spawn a bounty out of nowhere and say, okay, go bounty hunt. But they would also have to then come up with a reason for bounties to be in Yella or at Magda or at Aberdeen or at Microtech. And so to logically explain that, it would make sense to reveal that information to players. They could then just fake a schedule of a character. But I mean, look at Red Dead Redemption. Like, they don't fake stuff and people admire that. It adds to the game. I think having a real schedule that you can track people with and stuff is the Star Citizen way, we'll say. Obviously, they don't have to do all this to create bounty missions, but I think this is a good way of making them make sense. Better than stationary targets, yeah. Mist Expanse, I don't think it's in development right now. Sounds like they're putting a lot of thought and work into it, and it could lead to other game options. I think it could, yeah. Ark Survival Evolved had a status change like this. Oh, okay. For their creature leveling. And it requires investigation. If they can make it work, it will be a game loop worth exploring. Yeah, bounty hunting could take a huge leap forward with something like this. It won't work great the first time, but it's something. Okay, here's more information on bounty hunting, particularly with how we were going to actually take, because now it's not about killing people like bounty hunting is currently. In the future, it will be about apprehending them and taking them in. So after this, I will show you those offices where you have to turn people in, but for now they're going to talk about the restraints and how you're going to actually take these people down.
He's wanting to talk about restraints and...
Oh, restraints. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, like restraint...
Still lost you.
Restraining is a system that we're definitely currently actually looking into.
You didn't charge your headset. You didn't charge your headset before the show. Cardinal fail. All right.
So I can cover if you can hear me.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, like, restraining is something we're looking into at the moment, and obviously Chris mentioned bounty hunting, so bounty hunting is going to be pretty difficult if you can't tie someone up in some fashion. So we don't know what restraints are going to be yet in terms of, is it going to be zip ties, is it going to be handcuffs or anything like that, but, you know, you're going to want to be able to restrain someone's arms and legs so you can, you know, not let them escape. We had a quite funny moment in the office actually where I was like, oh, I'd just be fine with hands. And, you know, obviously doubting myself. I'm a big guy. I'm not very fit. Like if I got on the floor and someone had tied my hands together, I might struggle to get up. But Joe has very kindly demonstrated how easy it was to just stand up, no problem, with your hands behind your back. So I was like, yep, okay. Oh, you're back now.
I'm back now. Cool.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Looks like the technical designer's having technical issues.
In case you think they're joking, here is the reputation that they already concepted for it, for kidnapping. They've got the freaking feet and legs tied and everything. They're all in on it.
Yeah, I didn't hear at all what you were saying, but yeah.
Okay, but yeah, I was just quickly talking about some of the conversations we had around restraining and your lovely demonstration of how easy it is to get up with your hands tied behind your back. Yeah. But yeah, like the idea is you're going to restrain them arms, legs, so they can't escape, and then we'll tie that into body carrying, into bounty hunting, so you can put them maybe not in storage.
It's a good point, Gumbo.
School bully days, but you know, into cryopods instead, and you know, it'd be kind of rubbish if, you know, trying to bring someone in alive and you're on a bit of a rocky planet and you just like bump all the way back to your ship. You know, they might not survive the trip. You know, it reminds me of the Wild West days where, you know, someone would get dragged by a rope behind someone's horse. We probably don't want that.
No, we're a bit more civilized than that, aren't we?
A little bit. Depends when you ask. While your mic is still working, Joas, what sort of attachments are planned for?
Yeah, so that's it on the restraints. Obviously, it's not a big piece of detail, but like it confirms that they're going to happen. Here we have some talk about non-lethal weaponry. So you're going to have to restrain people. You're going to have to take them into the office. You're going to have to track them down. But how do you incapacitate them?
Any update on when we might begin to see non-lethal weaponry added to the game?
So yeah, there's no timeline on when we want to deliver the first weapon. I know we've got at least one in the pipeline that has the capability to knock people out. Again, like you mentioned earlier, you know, we're trying to prioritize or trying to, you know, make things for Squadron 42 as a priority, and that's kind of like where the team's leaning at the moment. So there's nothing yet been kind of like PU appropriate right now, and this is probably more something that when we start to do the PU bounty hunting stuff, this is probably when you're going to see this come along. And from a design point of view, we can make this right now, and it's just a case of making sure that we've got the time to get the content ready, content to go in, and then I think there was a few additions on the feedback side that, you know, you wouldn't have to worry about if you were shooting like an AI with this thing. But from a player point of view, if someone was shooting me with this, I'd probably want some very obvious feedback that someone is firing this weapon at me, and you know, I want the feedback to say like, I need to do something about this, or I'm going to get knocked out and probably restrained and dragged away, like we mentioned earlier. But yeah, we could do this when we released the Electron sniper rifle, if people remember that, the one that does chain lightning, the ATSCAV. When we actually put Electron in, Electron is that a wonderful damage type actually, where we can kind of pull a few different levers. So it's all electromagnetic or electrical damage type, but you know, the electromagnetic side will interrupt, you know, actual electrical systems. We've got the actual damage that it does, physical harm to you, where it basically like burns, and then we've also got the stun capability as well, where it's like actually, you know, almost like a taser, where it's kind of like knocking your senses out. So that's kind of what we can utilize and potentially what this sort of weapon will look like when it comes out.
Tasers will be necessary, but confirmed. We'll have guns that can disable but not kill people. And I think if you kill somebody, you'll probably just lose the job. Maybe lose some money. I don't know. And finally, this is where you're going to take people when you finally apprehend them.
And down on the surface of Hurston, work is underway on early white box phase of local law enforcement offices, a place for players to utilize the next evolution of bounty hunting gameplay we'll discuss more about later this year. To collect, or in this case, drop off the captured bodies of criminal outlaws collected by players. Now the drop off here is right up front, because in early test, it was getting kind of weird just walking through the hallways, pushing bodies deeper and deeper into the facility. Unless you're into that sort of thing. Moist noodle. You can then also check out the bounty boards to collect new missions here, or go forward into the shop and resupply as needed. And there's an office for meetings, but who needs more of those in life? And then we bring ourselves to the detention area, where a number of cells can vary from location to location. I suspect that many of you will be looking forward to spending your time anywhere else besides Kleischer, even if it's just a jail and not a prison.
Also, interesting to see how they balance prisons with jails like that. This is not an old video. This came out 2 months ago. This is actually, they go into building interior work right after this, which...
modules such as block of player apartments seen in the example here.
So yeah, this is a pretty cool sprint report, but that is bounty hunting as a whole. We went over kind of how the virtual AI will add into it. We went over, what is this? This was restraints. Right, restraints, non-lethal weapons, and where you turn them in. So there's going to be a whole loop to bounty hunting. It's going to be big. This is a big rework of that gameplay. I don't know if it's for 3.20. They haven't indicated that yet. Okay, now we move on to engineering. First time we heard about engineering was back in 2020 with this demonstration. I'll give you guys a little look at it, but we won't go through the whole thing. Just want you to have an idea of how they started this.
Don't have it fun with a cube and a sphere, you can put all the pretty paint on top of it. It's never going to be fun. So with the resource management, we have this idea that there is one way the resources are managed throughout the entire game. There's one way to consume them, one way to produce them, and all the items everywhere, they use the same system. So we started by creating this small example of a ship where we have a power plant, we have a fuel tank, a battery, we have lights inside the ship, we have turrets, we have weapons. We try to build a priority system, so you never want your lights to have the same priority as, for example, your power plant or your weapons. Basically, as soon as we start the simulation, the power plant goes, I'm online now, but I have no fuel. So all of this energy right now, the lights start draining the battery. If we put some fuel in the fuel tank, as soon as we put it in, the power plant starts going online, the battery starts replenishing because there's not that many consumers online. if I go, okay, let's say I set my weapons, my laser weapons to fire. As soon as I do that, there will be more drain on the energy. We can actually see we have a simulation of resources. We know we're producing this much power and we're requesting this much. We're running everything through exactly the same system. Now, same thing. Let's say someone takes out our power plant because it got shut down or got sabotaged. Automatically now we're on battery power. It might go, okay, we don't need weapons now. We're going to turn them off. Lights, I only need the one in the front, so I'm conserving a bit of battery power until I can repair my power plant. Once I repair my power plant, this goes online and I can start turning stuff on again. And this was our first thing we did where we built this.
This is so cool. I feel like that what he just said really sold the idea of engineering to me. Like, that's all I needed. It was great to see all the other videos, but the idea that you would have to maintain what's running and what's more important was like that was the whole point of engineering, in my opinion.
Ship, and we built this tool in a way that allows us to build different ship configurations. So as you can see, you can kind of understand the basic shape of a hammerhead. As soon as I turn on the simulation, we can see we have both power plants are starting to produce power. The fuel tank starts to get drained. The battery is on full capacity. We have these relays. Relays are a new concept that we're introducing in the ship. In order for all those resources to travel from the fuel tank to the power plant, from the power plant to the battery, from the battery to the lights, everything travels through these relays. Now, each relay you have on your ship is going to consume power. So the less you have, the more efficient you're going to be. The more you have you're going to be more redundant. For example, in this case, let's say someone sabotages this and they destroy this part. You can see already this part of the ship lost resources. If we lose this one, this power plant is off. Let's say now I need to start shooting. So I'm manning my turrets and they're shooting. I'm starting my Hammerhead doesn't have these weapons exactly here. We're just trying to simulate a ship at this point. You will start notice my lights started going off because in the priority my lights are very low priority. If you look at the battery is starting to drain. Let's say at this point it reaches 0. It ran out. Now this turret is off. It doesn't have power. This one is not running at what we requested because there's only one power plant running right now. Now, if I have a mechanic on board, he'll go, okay, this relay is broken, get power back to that power plant. As soon as we got power back to the power plant, we're starting to get our resources back, lights start going back online, we're back in business at this point. But let's say we have, I don't know, a smarter saboteur that goes, well, I kind of see how this ship is configured. I'm actually going to cut it in half. And this is usually like a worst case scenario. The system is smart enough to understand the idea that once the ship is cut in half, this front part of the ship has its own resource network, and this part of the ship is its own resource network. So it runs them independently. So everything in the back gets powered by these 2 power plants, but anything in front is completely dead because our battery is dead. As an engineer, your main goal is going to be to keep your ship as operational and as efficient as possible. So let's say now I'm transporting goods. I'm just moving from A to B. It's a pleasure cruise, no problem. I never want to travel like this. Each of these relays is going to be a drain on resources. So I'm going to turn this one off because I can turn this one off and I can turn this one off. And power and resources still have a route to travel. And I'm still keeping everything online. I'm trying to minimize the number of things that I'm powering on the ship. So this would be a viable configuration in which I'm still keeping everything on the ship fully functional. But let's say I go into battle. With this configuration into battle, if I take a hit here and this gets shot or gets sabotaged, I instantly lost half of my firepower. So it's a good thing to use when you're not in danger. When you're in danger, you just switch stuff to a more redundant system. Besides this, with all the overclocking and setting power levels, setting resource levels for each items, setting priorities, I think that the engineer is going to be a crucial part of the ship.
Crucial and difficult. This is like, honestly, one of the most involved forms of gameplay I've heard of in this game so far. And it makes me think of going back to the whole how much you get paid for doing things. You're going to have to pay an engineer a lot to know this kind of stuff. I mean, to understand how to most efficiently run a ship while everything is online, and then also immediately know what to turn back on in order to avoid getting attacked and stuff, that's a big deal. We will continue with that and actually go into, let's see, what was, there was another video I wanted to, hold on. I'm actually missing a video here. Let's go to CitizenCon so that I can show you guys, here we go. Okay. So this video will show you everything that he just showed us in practice, which I think is pretty cool. So this is the same guy 2 years later showing the same system, but now he has gone from that design conceptual thing that we just saw to an actual in-game representation. And here's what it looks like.
Items. We can set the priorities of item producers and consumers inside the ship, and we can set the path of resources inside the ship through the resource relay network.
And with the power system, we already can distribute the base energy and base fuel throughout the ship. So we can make sure that each item actually gets the resources they need. Creating your own resource path is basically defining the routes, or the most efficient routes that the energy or the resources have to take throughout your ship.
So you can see he just did the same thing. If you look at this little thing on the right side here, you can see how he's got this power, the little relay, but in order to get the rest of the ship powered, they need to connect this relay so it has a way through. Oops. So they put this on, it activates this, and boom, everything else in the ship gets power.
We can also demonstrate many aspects of the life support system, including making new players suffocate.
Oh, I'm not mad at you. I just didn't get to answer your question yet. So yeah, life support's something we don't have yet, but it's going to be a pretty big deal in making sure ships run correctly. It's going to keep you from putting too many people on a ship that's not supposed to have that many people.
Fire expulsion.
Also, I don't know if a single person will be able to save sets. I mean, whoever's flying the ship can act as an engineer as well, but I'm not sure what kind of tools they'll give you. Yeah, no more walking into vented rooms, which is going to kill me a lot. So you can see actually on the right side there, as the fire burns, it is depleting the oxygen in the room. So fire hazards will be pretty important to keep track of when you're in space.
Change the temperature in each room.
Oh, we'll probably have some kind of engineering displays. There it is, depleting the oxygen again. Oh, geez, and it gets hot in the room.
Making new players suffocate.
I mean, this is technically working in engine. Might not be in the game. Remember, the Cuddy Steel is a drop ship, so that'll probably be a ship that you're going to want to either use when you're going down to a planet or already on a planet. Probably won't be a great space drop ship unless you have gear already. I don't know. I just assume if it's the dev branch working, then it's a feature working. But I guess it's not the same as running online. Yeah, this is not meant to go into the game right now. The servers aren't supposed to be able to handle this. This will probably be in the game after server meshing has started.
And making players suffocate again.
Oh, yep, that's me. That's me for sure. This is just showing off gravity control on ships. So that's some of what they had to show. Oh, it looks like they're going to show one more thing here. Okay, so this is kind of showing what he showed us before. What he's going to do here is show that the shields are up. Then they're going to go inside and show the relays being removed to disable the system. And they'll show back again how the shields have been disabled from the inside, showing how you can either hack into systems and sabotage the shields, you can get someone on board to sabotage, or maybe you have a double agent on board. So there goes that relay. You can see it almost cuts the ship in half. But there's still one more relay, which is, you know, some redundancy. But if you pull that relay, then boom. All the power to the back half of the ship is gone. And the shields are off.
In the last year, we've made tremendous progress with the resource management system, but with a system that is this big and complex, we do not want to rush it. We want to just get it right and get it right from the beginning. So let's talk about what's next for the resource management system.
As you can tell, resource management is a huge endeavor for us.
So like everything else, we'll probably not get everything in the initial release, but this is what we're aiming for.
Interactable and accessible items on ships, relay gameplay, changing fuses on the relays, resource balancing, defining control groups that will be accessible through the MFDs, allowing people to create presets for your resource network. For
There's your answer.
Ship, an engineering UI with at least a list or schematic view of your ships, external engineering screen for ships, allowing engineers to define the tuning parameters that can be accessed by the pilot with the press of a button, like loading presets and creating presets.
Nice.
And after the initial release, everything else will fall into place with subsequent patches.
So that is how engineering progressed. But now let's listen to some answers on engineering here. I think I've got, yeah, this is talking about life support and resource management. So we should get a lot of good information from this. This is again 1 year ago.
Is life support? A few years ago, it was mentioned that the room system is finished and it could be easily implemented. What's the holdup at the moment? How is life support?
Yeah, I think it's good. It's progressing, definitely. I'm enjoying working on it. But yeah, I feel like the easily part is probably a bit misleading. It's more than just like room system. There needs to be, you know, graphic user interface for all the panels. There needs to be controls for the rooms. There needs to be integration to resource systems. So there's like a lot of additional work that we're doing right now. And then also we have the setup for the ships, and yeah, but it is definitely progressing, and I'm happy with it so far.
We do have a lot of ships to process to get that in a releasable state. So that definitely is a contributing factor. And the question saying the room system is finished is not quite accurate either. It's constantly in development, being upgraded to support more new features and things like that.
Yeah, it's. I was trying to think of something I could add to that, but no, that's pretty much it. It is
a big feature. It's not like.
And every time we add more ships, it just makes your work just a little bit. like one part, the project keeps moving the goalpost out for you. Like it's only this many ships, and then we keep adding more ships. But yeah, I think it's a major component, not just to not just for the present day gameplay, but it's obviously an essential component to real like multi-crew. One of the things, I mean, there's not a whole lot of multi-crew in Star Citizen right now. There's basically you're a pilot and you're a turret gunner, so like that. But things like resource management and life support and stuff like that. Those are all how we build out the idea of true multi-crew here. And for me, that was always my draw to the game. Like that's what
the classic engineer role. Yeah.
There will be a lot to make that exciting in the not too distant future when we have life support. I'm also thinking about the fire system in development. That gives you another thing for other people on the ship to do other than the pilots. It's, we've got a fire on deck 3, send someone to go deal with that.
Right.
That interacts with life support, resource management, all of that.
Yeah, or just like
all comes together.
The ship. Yeah.
And each time one of these systems comes online, that's another place to send damage. So, when ships are being attacked, we can send damage to life support and send damage to power resource management, stuff like that. So the time to live on these ships will last longer and stuff. And it's exciting. It's one of those. The Star Citizen multi-crew gameplay of today will not be what the gameplay is of tomorrow, and I'm excited to see some.
So that's kind of what you were asking about, right? The hard death will be happening less. Ships will die slower. It will be more about damaging components and taking ships offline than about blowing them up. And this is why simply being a pirate and shooting people isn't going to get the job done. And simply, going into a dogfight just to try and land hits is going to be less important. It's going to be about quickly disabling ships and figuring out if you need to board it to steal their stuff, to get a bounty, maybe to disable some components or what. But yeah, this isn't live. This is a year old.
True progress towards that. Is life support still planned to be limited to people? Is life support still planned to be limited to prevent people using ships as a clown car?
Yeah, of course. Because the way it's supposed to work, you like on ISS, you have the scrubber. It removes the CO2, and it has only certain rate that it can process. Yeah, so if you suddenly get like 20 people inside of a small ship that's designed for like 2 people, then your life support is gonna start not managing it, and that the rate of flow of the air through the system will be too slow. The CO2 will build up, and you'll probably die. But obviously, it's all gonna, needs to be balanced well with the bigger ships and then the different rooms in the ships. So there's
We don't want to put a hard limit on it. That is something. So we want to have it systemic driven. So that means that. So if you have an Aurora and you want to claim it with 5 people, then sure, it will work. But what you have to do as the person running the Aurora, you have to replace the skimmer constantly, because the skimmer just depletes very, very fast because because of the CO2 production in the room. And then, sure, if you want to decide to, every 10 minutes I have to replace the skimmer, sure.
And also like you have, life support is not only doing the CO2, it's also like temperature and the pressure, and those things will be also hit by too many people breathing in the room, because then it's, you know, less time for heating or cooling the room. So it's gonna be interesting gameplay there to balance what you want in your rooms, to the atmosphere to be like.
Several people in the chat are listening to your answers and all saying, how does any of that work with something like the Valkyrie, where you're supposed to have, you know, big open side doors, and so how does that work with some of these drop ships that are designed to have big open spaces to the?
So one of the things that will have to come along with life support is dynamic atmosphere propagations. You know, fancy name for just air actually moving between things. So if you have the doors open, you're going to be getting whatever atmosphere is on the other side of those doors. If you open the doors in space, you're going to have a bad time for anyone on there who wants to breathe. But yeah, you'll be able to fly around and in a way catch some atmosphere from the planet that you're in. I think that'll have some interesting implications in future for planets with not human breathable atmospheres. It'll make your life support system have to work a bit harder once you close those doors to try and clean that up for you.
And we've seen some ships like the Idris or the Javelin. They have like the Star Wars or Star Trek, you know, force field walls and doors that helps keep atmosphere in. So it remains to be seen, you know, what ships will have, you know, stuff like that, and what may not. B Quartermass says, "Is this live?" No. Now, last week we did all the thing where I put it on the screen. I said it wasn't live, but this week I thought I'd let people wonder.
But it's not live.
Do we have any more life support questions? Let's see.
Should have some resource management.
Clown cars. Will T0 of life support allow atmosphere management on a per room basis, or will it be one atmosphere setting throughout the entire
Okay,
ship?
we still got time. So hold on. Let's see. Life support, life support, life support. Let's jump to resource management here. Answer a couple questions on that.
Any discussion of life support has to go right into resource management.
Yeah.
They're inextricably tied. We haven't talked about resource management since we had that wonderful demo with Dan Truffin way back when. What can you give us about it before we get into the specific questions here? What can you give us as a general kind of update? How is it going? Is it going? Is it moved since we showed it so long ago?
Yeah, there are improvements. I mean, some things are necessary for life support to use it. Yeah, so that's what I'm working on partially. So we have like, I guess, support for it to interact with the room system. Yeah, to exchange the gases from the tank with the rooms. Yeah, and that's all coming together.
You got anything to add, Torsten?
And in addition to the work that Yaro does for the life support, we also started working on the proper engineering screens, because they are the same. So basically the life support UI interface will be just an overlay or a layer inside the engineering screen. So every engineering screen is also directly a life support user interface, right?
Okay. Just because it was that Halloween episode way back when, and nobody's seen or heard from Count Discuss since. We've gained a lot of Star Citizen backers since then. Can you give us a kind of a general overview? I'm not going to ask you. You can clearly do it, as we demonstrated with the refueling. So not the entire loop, but what are our goals? What are the goals? What's the intention? That's just the top level of resource management, power management, however you want to refer to it. What are we trying to do here?
So our goal there is to give the all resources distribution of any ship in players' hands. So we have fuel. We have fuel that is consumed by the power plant and by the engines, and you are in control of how much fuel those engines and the power plant gets. And depending on how much fuel the power plant gets, it will create energy, and you can distribute that energy. So for example, you could even say, okay, I don't need any light in my ship. So none of the energy goes to the light or the doors. So all the doors stay open for the full time, but all the energy goes to the weapons, for example, or the shields. So this is something that you will be able to manage on the fly. So dynamically, anytime, any day, on any ship, you will be able to have full control over the resource distribution of your ship.
Okay. And this follow-up question is probably very similar to the life support one. Regarding resource management, will content teams need to rework existing ships before this can be implemented in the PU?
Yes. Quite significantly, actually, yes. Because we have some legacy systems that work, but are not the ideal way that we intended to have it work.
So that sucks. And they haven't talked too much about that. The only ships we know that they've worked on for resource management so far are the Hull A, the Hammerhead, and the Ares. Besides that, we don't really know. They are building new ships in anticipation of this, but they haven't named any other ships that they have that are confirmed to be ready for, or at least being made ready for resource management. That info is from a monthly report that they put out. Okay. I have like a really quick clip here just to kind of show you the ideas that they've had for engineering and how they have interaction and component access in mind. This isn't going to really show you too much, but it's interesting.
The interactions that we have in our game define how reactive the environment is, define how simulated that space feels, how real.
So this is just them pulling components out that are overused and replacing them with new ones.
A big part of driving emergent gameplay of, I see a thing, I understand it, I expect it to behave a certain way, and then it does.
That's a huge part of engineering, and we've seen that already start with the components that we're doing now. Now we're going to jump into a talk with Thurston here and listen to what he has to say about engineering a little bit. He answers some good questions. How is it limited? Do you have to do it? What does it involve? We go a little bit over the information we already have today, but I still think this is a good one to check on before we jump on to... Oh, actually, I guess from here we'll just kind of touch on hacking a little bit, maybe some data running, and then we're done.
Evolution of our resource management system. We did a Journey to 4.0 special that we released to YouTube last
Sorry,
week.
I can't turn this up anymore. Very quiet
Check
video.
that out if you haven't already, and then come back. We'll wait.
Just 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
The episode was a bit longer.
Yeah, it can double speed.
Just wait. Honestly, they're going to that is engineer this absolutely enormous behemoth thing that's going to ruin everybody's experience, and everybody's going to be forced into micromanaging the tiniest and most insignificant details of their ship life.
If you're into that, yes. So, so we want to allow you to basically have full control over all the ship items over your ship. So it should feel like your ship if you're into that. But on the other hand, we also want to allow players that are just like jumping in for, let's say, 1 hour of game time. We don't want to force them into you have to do a 2-hour prep and then do another of 1 hour of post prep for your ship. We really want like also to have those players being able to fly around and experience all the missions in the persistent universe and all what we ever will throw at you.
So would you say it's kind of what I took from it, from listening to us when we filmed it, from the conversations from you stuff, it's kind of like owning a car today. The car is going to work and it's going to function and it's going to do everything that you expect it to do with very little work on behalf of the owner. Yep. And occasionally you know, a light's going to go on. You're going to have to take it to a service center and, you know, get it fixed, pay a fee. Somebody else takes care of it and whatnot. But if you're an enthusiast, if you're the min-max lifestyle and stuff like this, you can fine-tune your automobile
Exactly,
to
supposit.
get more out of it, to improve its top speed, to improve its handling, and stuff like that. And that's where engineer gameplay really comes into play.
Exactly. You will be the person that actually is able to identify the light bulb that just went on in your car and tell you exactly, okay, this is the engine. And then when you open up your trunk, you see like, okay, it might be the igniter or whatever. So that is your job. But if you're
Sup,
not
back
into that,
alley
you can
llama?
still bring it to the shop and have it repaired there.
Yeah. So Star Citizens like this Dave Bridle here, who are no good at playing at doing this and have no interest in. Sorry, I threw somebody. Under the
Hey,
bus
Lizzie,
right now.
thank you for the raid.
You're not gonna get
I appreciate it.
Who don't want to
Throw
be
you
an
a quick
engineer
shout
or
out.
whatnot. They're still going to be able to operate their ship
sure,
and
fully.
run around and do this like this. But for those people who want to
Walking
push
Dead,
a
nice.
bit
Thanks for the
more,
drop
people
on.
who want to get a bit more performance, a bit more capability out of their craft.
Yes.
Okay.
Precisely.
And then from the repair standpoint, from the from the people who are in the Jeffrey tubes, fixing stuff like this. I mean, obviously that's a bit of the outside world, imposing in on you. What options do people have for that? Just limp home and get it repaired by a service station, or?
Yes. So one thing that is even now written behind me on my whiteboard which is the main goal that we envision for the engineering gameplay, is that player decisions matter, and one of the decisions can be it's not my gameplay, so I'm not into engineering, and it's a valid decision. It's your choice. It's your game. It's your ship. Whatever you want to do, that you can do it. So but that has the consequence of you probably will run with the stock settings for the items that you bought. And you regularly have to go to repair it, so you have to pay the money to actually be able to repair it, and sometimes you might even need to exchange the items for money, so you have to buy a new item to have it then exchanged on your ship and stuff like that. But if you then have the other player type who then is interested in, like, no, I can maintain my items myself and I can adjust them to my demands, so you can get a bigger or longer lifetime of the items out of your ship, or you get like a more effective ship, or out of your ship, so you are more effective in the sense of
And from the damage standpoint, it's as time to kill increases, as the game continues to evolve, physicalized damage comes in, the armor penetrations like this, and the natural time to live or time to kill, however you want to extends. It'll become a choice between knowing what your ship can do without an engineer and knowing when you have to cut and run, so you don't have to do that, or having an engineer or becoming an engineer yourself, and then you can extend your time to live.
Yeah, drastically. So it was even just a discussion that I had today with Yogi, where we were briefly talking about the time to kill right now and where we should be going. So we were especially talking about the multi-cruise ships, because right now it's like a hammerhead, for example, dies too fast.
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely something that we have to do. How it will look like in the future, I cannot tell, because we have to try it out. But one of our goals, additionally to increasing the time to kill, is also, like, if you are in a soft dead state, that you are able to repair to a degree. So you might even be able to repair the pieces you are still in, and if the engine is still attached, you might be lucky to do an escape, because you pulled out your quantum drive out of the piece that is floating around and then attached it back into a socket that might be fitting, and then you somehow boot up the engine, and then you fly away and you made the escape.
No, we didn't talk about medical gameplay
One
today.
of the eternal challenges of Star Citizen, not just running a live gameplay environment in the middle of your development, but running a continuing behind-the-scenes documentary, a storytelling series telling the story of the thing while you're in development, is reminding people, without having to keep repeating it every 30 seconds in the thing, that we design systems for the game we're building towards, not the game as it is today. The game as it is today is what's available, what's online, what works, what doesn't work. stuff like that. Just gotta be real. But when you design systems, you're not designing for the game as it is today. You're designing for where the game will be with the increased time to kill, with the proper damage penetration and stuff like that.
Well, we still have the current state of game in mind, right? So we always try to make it like the ultimate goal is to have it where we want it to be in the future. But and sometimes we can do some slight adjustments on the way there that are more fitting to the current state of the game. Sometimes it's not as easy to achieve. Sometimes we even have to do additional work to make it work with the current setup. But yeah, those are decisions that we always have to go through. And sometimes the decision is like, yeah, okay, we cannot put that much time and effort into creating like additional work on us that makes it fit better into the current situation. We aim more for the long run.
And of course, I introduced the idea of increasing time to kill and stuff. That's obviously where we're working towards for every spacecraft in the game, except the Cutlass Steel.
Yeah, +1 on that.
Why does it blow up? All right, so so all that said, and all of that laid on the table, just as in a simplified form, do people have to be an engineer?
No.
There you go. Now, for someone who chooses to be an engineer, can they be all three roles?
Yes.
Is there something that prevents them from being
yes.
one?
Even the person that doesn't want to be an engineer can be all of those three types that we talked about. It isn't it's no skill, it's no talent, it's no device, it's not something that you pick. It's based on your skill. So based on your skill, your knowledge, you just take up we thought the hat might be a clear indicator. But
okay, I'm glad you mentioned the hat.
Yeah.
Some of the React videos I saw, people on YouTube or Twitch, or even some of the posts I saw on Spectrum, whatever. Some people took the hat thing to be very literal.
Yeah.
Like there was literally a special hat that you put on. There isn't. I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but there isn't an actual hat.
Except the bandana, that is a must-have. So you cannot be anything.
Yeah.
No, kidding.
Yeah,
you don't need a hat.
To a more logical state, though, we're not. This isn't like like switching between a flight mode, like SCM or whatever. There's not a special mode somebody goes into to become a tuner versus to become a mechanic thing. This is like the difference between salvaging and mining. It's you decide to do these things.
Yes, there's a dedicated console that is constantly running, which full purpose is to give you an overview of the state of the ship. And this can be used by whatever person you are, attached. And once you interact with it, you can be technically called an engineer because you're actually interacting with the system. And for the mechanic, it's like, if there's something, or if you as a person, you don't have to be a mechanic, you just run around and you see something is broken, you pull out your multi-tool and fix it, then you suddenly are the mechanic. You are wearing your mechanic hat and actually fixing the thing. For the tuner, it's a bit more complicated. There you have to first pull out the item and then do some adjustments there and then bring it back in. Right. So multiple steps.
Yeah. So it's
Okay, so that's enough of engineering, I think. We got a pretty good look at it, though. It's sounding really good, and it's not mandatory. It's not, you get benefits from it, but you don't have to do it to keep your ship running. There's a spectrum of how much you might want to do in terms of engineering. You could choose to just keep things working. You could choose to keep things at their most efficient. Excuse me. I got a little bit here on hacking. This is from a while ago, so the idea of hacking has changed since then, and I think they were going through that change around this time, but I'll let you guys hear what they at least had in mind for hacking.
Hacking is almost a standalone encapsulated feature. So what we have is we'll be basically repurposing the hacking chips that we have right now. So the hacking chips will still be around. You'll have a hacking chip. You'll need to use that. And the way we're working with the environment team right now to go through all the locations is where you can hack something in. It's essentially you're going and using the maintenance access So let's say you come to a PC or a ship or whatever, you're plugging into the maintenance assets where somebody would come in and go, okay, I'm an IT administrator, I need to get into the system. So they have, a skeleton key, should we say. They're putting it in and they're helping fix the problems. You've obviously got an illegal skeleton key, essentially. You're then plugging it in, and then that brings the hacking mini game up on your visor, where you essentially have to manipulate the 3D board to avoid the AI and collect basically fragments of the passcode that you're trying to find. And then when you find these passcodes, you can then put them in, and then that gives you access to whatever that is, whether that's opening a door, a terminal, terminal access, power access, elevators, whatever the content guys decide they want to do. But essentially that's the premise behind it. And we have a scaling difficulty across hacking. So we have versions without AI where it's just simple and you can just do it yourself. Then we have versions that are time limited with multiple AI. The board's much more complex. And the premise is that a manufacturer in the world has created this 3D program to help people hack without actually having to script or program. So that's kind of where we're at with hacking, and that's obviously will slot into some of the FPS features to create some of the more interesting FPS missions that the guys are working on in the background.
Now, obviously, as I said, things have changed. This was like 2 years ago. Clearly, they were working on this. They had an idea. They realized they could do something better, or somebody joined the company that could maybe program it better. So they went back and redid it, and we still don't have hacking yet. But the idea that hacking is going to basically be interfacing with any kiosk, I think is cool. You're not looking for hacking terminals or anything. You're looking for resource management options. You're looking for ship systems, and you're looking for space station systems. So like, it sounds like they plan on hacking being very interactive with everything else that's going on besides just, like what you might expect straight up. So I just wanted to drop that last little bit of information on hacking. I know we went through data running quite a bit. I honestly don't have the time to pull up information on that. I'd have to go and look for it, but data running is also another big one that's coming. Don't know if it's not coming soon. Don't know when it's coming. But I think of the four we went over today, I think the best chance we have of seeing one of these is going to be cargo. That is going to definitely get an update in 3.20. As we can already see, we have the hull C here. So they're clearly kind of planning to have the cargo refactor in here in some way with the hull C, or they're just going to drop the ship in useless. But I think cargo is the best bet we have at the next profession. After that, I'm guessing refining, and then bounty hunting, and then engineering. But who knows? It's a toss-up. No knowing what's happening the rest of this year, but it is a good year. I think this is the best year for gameplay we've seen so far, so I look forward to seeing what else they might do. But that's all I had for you today, guys. So thank you all for coming. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you got to learn something new, got some information out of it. Maybe you can go share with other people. Any thoughts about the new containers? I think they're good. I think we need those containers. Bigger containers mean more cargo, mean better gameplay. So that is a good addition to the game. Much love out to Brazil. Leonard just got back from dinner. I hope it was good. Got you high on copium. No problem. I'm happy to help. I mean, right now, like, there's always struggles with the game at the moment, but there's a lot of really cool stuff coming to Star Citizen that's planned. So it's easy to get enthusiastic and excited about it, but also just, keep your expectations. Don't go too far about it. Anything that they say, add a couple months on, and hopefully we'll see some good gameplay by the end of the year. But that's it, folks. Thank you again for joining me, everybody. I'm going to send you all on to Salty Mike for the raid. I appreciate you all. I hope you've had a great week. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I should be back on tomorrow, but we will see. Either way, have a great one. I'll see y'all next time. Bye-bye.